Hi, and welcome to Stressed, the podcast to develop your stress resilience. Being ambitious and successful while living a happy life is possible. Learn how you can better cope with stress in day-to-day situations by applying tools and techniques that work for you. My name is Kati Arndt, and I'm extremely grateful that you decided to check out my podcast today. Let's get started. Hi, and welcome back to Stressed, the podcast to develop your stress resilience. Thank you so much for checking in to this week's podcast episode, where I will talk about how to manage stress as a parent. I've been super excited to share this episode with you for a really long time. I actually have planned this for a really long time to record it. I have a very special interview guest today. I probably say this every time that my interview guests are super special, and they are. But this week is really, really super special for me because I did talk to no other than my older sister herself, Kati Arndt. And she is a pharmacist, single mom, and entrepreneur building her own business at the moment in personal development coaching for moms. And we talk about a lot of super interesting subjects. I obviously learn a lot myself in this conversation as well because I do not have kids yet. But I thought it was so valuable to have her share her experience. So we are talking, for example, about what tools she's using when situations get out of hand and frustrating, what routines she applies to stay centered and grounded, what she does when things don't go as planned, which I'm sure happens all the time as a parent, and how to start practicing mindfulness and positivity with your kids. And her daughter is 3 years old. And one of the things that I really learned and what was super valuable for me is that kids are really a mirror of our own feelings and behaviors. And so one of the things that really stuck with me was when she said, well, when I'm stressed, Lena, her daughter, feels that as well, and then things really get out of hand because Lena is starting to get cranky and unhappy. And I found that so valuable because that just shows how important it is that we take care of ourselves first before taking care of all the people that we love and all the people that surround us. So just one little thing before we jump in. And this week, we also didn't just record the podcast on audio file, but we also recorded it as a video. So if you're interested to see my sister and myself sitting in our living rooms, she in Germany and me here in Lake Tahoe, then just check out my YouTube channel. The channel is called Julia Arndt, and I would love to have you check out the video there as well. So without further ado, I'm super excited to share this with you. So let's get started. Hi, Kati. How are you?
Hello, Jules. I'm fine.
Nice to have you in my podcast today. Thanks so much for joining.
Yes, it's super exciting for me, especially because it's in English.
Yes.
And my English is a bit rusty, I guess.
No, you will be totally fine. Pick us up a little bit. Where are you right now? What time is it? Where are you located? And what have you been doing today?
Okay. I'm sitting in Germany right now in a small town called Naumburg. It's about 7 p.m. And I've been working in the pharmacy in the morning. And in the afternoon, I've been home and I worked on my own podcast.
Very cool. That's great. So we want to talk a little bit about how people can take care of themselves and handle stressful situations in day-to-day life when they have children, because
Yes.
that's kind of what you're focusing on. Do you want to talk a little bit more about the business that you're creating right now?
Yes. So a few facts about me. I'm a single mom. I have a daughter. She's 3 years old. And I'm working as a pharmacist. That's my main job right now. But like 3 years ago, when my child was born, my daughter, I developed a special interest in personal development and growing, and it just dawned to me that I will be the greatest role model for my child, and that made myself, or that made me, look at a lot of things in a different way. And like 2 years ago, I think I started a practice. How do you say?
Training?
A training to become a coach. And yeah, I want to coach other moms now, single moms, or moms or parents in general, to for them to go their own authentic way and to get better and live their lives the way they want to live them.
Okay.
And I'm doing that in my free time, which is not a lot actually. Because I have my job and then I have my child, so there's not much space to do something else.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit more about that. Actually, it's a kind of good gateway into my next question. How have you been managing stress with a job, being a full-time mom, and building your coaching business?
Oh well, I think the most important thing for me was to start taking single days off. I would say, because in the beginning, or before my daughter was born, I would have never taken a day off just to organize things, or just to be home. Like, the days off were holy for me, to get away, to go on a big holiday or something like that. And last year, during my training to become a coach, I would spend long weekends in Berlin from Friday till Sunday. And then usually I took the Monday off to, get organized, get settled in, do the laundry, and also to reflect and catch up on everything I've learned. And after my training finished, I still continued doing that. Nowadays, sometimes I will take a day off to do things that I won't be able to do during my usual working life, I would say. For example, like 2 weeks ago, I took a day off to get my website started, because there were so many things that needed to be finished. And usually in the evenings, I'm so groggy and I will just fall asleep with my girl. So I just took a day off to do the final steps on my website. Yeah, and when things get really, really stressy, I learned to read my own early warning signals, I would say. For example, I can tell that I get antisocial. I don't feel like answering messages of my friends. I think you know that too.
Yes, I definitely do.
And also my daughter is a good mirror. When she's stressed, or she can trigger me or starts acting up, I know that's kind of a sign for me that there's something going wrong, or that she's stressed and I'm probably stressed too. So yeah, and when I realize that, then I will really reduce what I do to the minimum. And that might be, for example, if Lina, my baby's name is Lina, so if she's sick, for example, I will just, I won't do anything that day, and just, focus on her, and, cooking maybe some nice healthy food, and just relax. And I'll just surrender to that. And that's a real hard thing if you want to get going and want to go forward. And yeah that feeling, if you want to get somewhere and you have the feeling you just can't keep the pace. But I've learned that sometimes, you just got to go with the flow, especially with a child. You got to be flexible. You can have all these plans and preparations, but if there's something wrong with your child, or something happens, you just have to be flexible and go with the flow, really. Yeah. And if shit is getting real, another thing that I had to learn is, that it's okay to get help, to ask my parents for help or friends to help me out, and that I don't have to do everything on my own.
Yeah. And do you work full time, or how do you kind of break up your day of like working and taking care of your child and building your business? I mean, that's a lot of things to do simultaneously.
Yeah. Usually I work from 8 till 2 in the afternoon. I don't work full time. I work like 30 hours per week.
Okay.
And I'm really grateful for my boss that I have this nice work schedule, and I, have almost every afternoon off. And so I can pick up my child around 3 p.m. in the afternoon from the kindergarten. And then, we usually go visit my grandma, or we will go grocery shopping, or we'll just go for a nice walk. So I try to keep that balanced and really enjoy the time with my child too, because I didn't get a child just to, do my own thing and not do anything with my child. So I really want to enjoy the quality time together. And then usually in the evenings, she goes to bed around 8 p.m. In the mornings, I always tell myself that I will do something for my business in the evening. But to be honest, most of the times I'm so KO in the evening, so groggy, that I just go to bed with her. So I bring her to bed every evening and wait for her to fall asleep. And usually I fall asleep too. So the only time that I can be productive really is when she's gone. For example, this weekend she's spending the weekend at her dad's. So I try to squeeze in as much work that I can, manage when I'm alone. Really, I try to be productive and, also enjoy some quality time off for myself.
Yeah. And I imagine that's a difficult balance to keep as well, right? Because you have then one free weekend for yourself, and then you want to build your business, but at the same time, you're probably as well exhausted and you just want to relax and not do anything really, right?
Yeah. But I have to say, this coaching thing is really something that gives me energy, really, and I really enjoy it. And I always said to myself, this is like a hobby for me, and I want to enjoy it, and really just do what feels good for me. And I try to do that. Of course, there are some things that are really annoying, to figure out how something works online with a blog or with a podcast. But in general, I just get so inspired about stuff that I read, and I really want to share it. And that's really just something that feels good and makes me really happy and excited. And to be honest, I think probably tonight I will have trouble getting to sleep because I'm so wired up and so excited that I can't cool down afterwards.
Yeah, I totally get that feeling as well. I have that many times, very often at the moment, to lay in bed awake and not be able to sleep because there's just so many ideas and so many exciting things that are going on that it's really hard to kind of calm down. And I actually try to not do it in the evenings anymore, to like give myself a hard stop at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then start to try to think of other things, so my mind has time to relax and and just go into relaxation mode and think of something different.
Yeah, sometimes when I really want to finish something, I will stay up, and then I already know that I won't be able to sleep very well that night. Usually when I get up again after Lina's fallen asleep, then I'm getting so wired up that I really just can't cool down. But then I accept it, I embrace it, and I know that I will be totally tired the next day, and will be grateful to be able to go to bed with my child early the next evening. So sometimes I just, go with it.
Yeah, surrender to that as well, right?
Yeah.
About surrendering earlier.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sure there's a lot of people listening right now that would love to have some recommendations about how do you manage your stress when you have a child, when you, like, no matter if it's if you are a single parent or a parent in general, a parent with a full-time job, what would you tell parents of what to be careful of or what to be aware of in order to manage stress better?
I think the most important thing is really to get to know yourself and to get to know your priorities. What is important to you? For example, for me, as I said, for me, the most important thing is that me and my child are happy and healthy. So that comes at the very first, and then come family and friends, and then comes my hobby or, what I want to turn into a business. But I've made this priority list in my head, and whenever things get tough, I know where to focus on. So if I get stressed out, I will just cut out my business or my hobby and go back to the roots. And that was really hard for me in the beginning because I have the feeling I'm just super slowly getting there. Mm-hmm. But there's this nice saying also that says even small steps will still get you there. So even forward is forward, no matter how fast or slowly you go. So yeah. So the first thing is really prioritize. Find out what is important to you, and then live that. Mm-hmm. And yeah, as a mom, or especially as a single mom, you have so many roles. Like, you are a mom, you are a coworker, you are a family member. Maybe you have a boyfriend. Also, you have so many roles to fill that you can't be perfect in every single one. I won't be able to manage my household and at the same time, keep up all my social contacts. So cross out perfectionism. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, or being perfect. Yeah.
Just forget about being perfect and prioritize. Think, always do your best, but when you're stressed, that's the second recommendation I would give: be careful with your resources. So doing your best is one day, maybe, being fully productive at every single aspect of your life, but maybe another day when you're exhausted, your best is just focusing on you, getting sleep, and maybe a healthy meal, and that's it for that day. And just go with that and accept it. And also, very, very important for parents, take time for you. It's really hard, but keep in mind, you can't pour from an empty cup. So take time for yourself, or when you're in a relationship, take some couple time. And I've heard a cool rule of thumb once. There was a lady that said, you should take 1 hour per day, 1 day per week, 1 weekend per month, and 1 week per every year for yourself to, get refueled. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was a really nice rule of thumb. And a cool, practical tip that I would give you, especially, I know you and probably a lot of the Googlers and business people, they have like a Google Calendar or online calendars that they use, and maybe use it to also enter your times off, enter meetings with friends, or going to the movies or sports. Mm-hmm. And or maybe just time for your morning routine or whatever, enter that in your calendar as well, because you will always fill every slot with things to do. Mm-hmm. But getting rest or getting in your leisure activities is also something really important, and you should maybe enter that into your calendar. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's a good tip. And that brings me to my third general thing that I would recommend is find out what recharges your batteries. Mm-hmm. And that can be something different for everybody. And there are these things where I think you mentioned that once in a podcast episode, and I thought that was so inspiring. I think you told about a client of you that said she should do sports and she should go to the gym or something like that, and you told her, or you asked her, do you enjoy that? And I thought that was so cool, because this is something I think a lot of people do, that they are like, I should do that and I should eat that, and but if it doesn't make you happy or relax you, won't help you to de-stress.
Yeah.
So find out what you really like, and if that is sitting on the couch and reading a book, then do that. Or and if you don't know what it is, find out, then really start doing new things and find out what recharges you.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. I love that example. It's
I
so
thought that was so cool when I heard that in your podcast episode. I was really inspired by that, because it's really, it's really like that you feel ertappt. Wie sagt man das how do you say in English?
You feel caught.
Yeah, I felt caught, like, oh my God, maybe I do that too. I think I should do this or that.
Like all these agendas and the things that we need to do, because like we hear it everywhere and we read it in magazines that you need to live a healthy life, and living a healthy life is exercise and eating healthy, So then I put it into my agenda, like I need to work out 3 times and go to the gym, but working out can be so many different things. It could be going for a walk because that's what you enjoy, or it could be playing with your dog, or going to a group volleyball game, or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be you have to go to the gym or you have to go to a group class in order to tick that box of being active and physical active.
Totally.
So yeah,
totally. And one last thing that I want to say as a final word to your listeners, to the parents that listen. The most important thing is to surrender to this process of learning how to cope with stress. And change takes time. So you won't be able to do everything at once. And the most important thing is, don't beat yourself up and go into this negative talk with yourself, because you are a role model for your child. The way you treat yourself is how your child learns how to treat itself. So if you start beating up yourself again, ask yourself, do you want your child to talk like this to itself? Or do you want your child to be loving with itself and take care of itself? And what do you want your child to learn? Be a good role model. If you can't change for yourself, maybe you can with this thought of being a role model for your child, be gentle to yourself.
I really love that. That's so true. Do you have any routines or any rituals that you do with Lina, or for yourself?
With Lina, well, I have a short morning routine.
Okay.
I do 10 minutes of yoga every morning. I have this sun salutation video from Yoga with Adriene. You can just look for her on Google, on YouTube, or Google too, probably. And I'll just do this video every morning. I love it because it gets my juices flowing. I stretch a little bit, and it's just a 10-minute routine, so I will be able to do that.
And it's also time for yourself, right?
Yeah, a little, yeah. And I will put Lina in front of the TV for that, so that I can really get these 10 minutes for myself.
Yeah.
And also when I get up, I make my bed, so I have this small first accomplishment of the day, I guess. And I also try to drink water to rehydrate after the night. So these are really just tiny rituals that I can squeeze in a usual morning. There's no time for a real long morning routine. And in the evenings, when I go to bed with Lina, we have this small ritual that we ask each other what we liked most that day and what we didn't like. So I started asking her, and now she starts asking me back, actually. So that's really nice way to start with your child, to reflect on the day, get into a little talk, how the day went and what was good and what wasn't, maybe. I really enjoy that time with Lena, really. So there's no cell phone. It's, we're lying in the dark bed. Before I read a little bit in a child's book to her, really just with the flashlight.
Okay.
We're lying in the bed with a flashlight from Peppa Pig. And that's really just the time for us, and we cuddle, and I really, really enjoy that time that is just for the two of us.
Yeah. Do you have an example for, like, I'm really curious of, like, what does Lena say? Like, what does she like and what does she not like? How much is she reflecting already on her day?
Well, her standard answer is always, if I ask her, what did you like most today? She's always saying, spending time with you.
Okay.
And then I always, dig a little deeper and tell her something that we did that day. Maybe I'm like, today your kindergarten friend came over. Did you like that? And then she's like, yeah, I like that. And I ask her, what did you like especially? And she's like, like playing this or that, something like that.
Yeah.
So it's not super deep maybe, but I try to get her to, in this way of thinking, also to maybe think in a positive way, and remember the things that were nice that day. And maybe a good idea in general for parents or couples is also to, to practice gratitude when they go to bed or in the morning. You just can go to bed and tell each other three things that you're grateful for that day. That would be a super nice de-stressing routine.
Yeah, definitely. And what are the things that she says that she doesn't like?
Well, very often she says, I liked everything that day. Like, she's like, I don't know, even though there were, like, situations where I'm like, well, you just cried for 5 minutes. But for me, that's also interesting, because apparently she's forgotten about that, and that it wasn't that dramatic as it seemed in that moment. So that's very interesting for me too, that she's just like, maybe as an adult, we are more, like, dwelling on the past or on the things that didn't go right.
Well, and we're so judgmental as well.
Yeah.
Right?
And apparently as a child, she's in that moment, and in that moment it's super bad and super annoying for her, but then it's over and it's in the past, and she moves on. And I think that's a really cool learning for for mindfulness. I think children are in this just constant state of being mindful. They're not thinking about, they're not constantly in the past or in the future. They're in the now, and that's amazing to see. And it's a good reminder every day.
It is.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. I think that's so special. And I love that. I actually was there once.
Yeah.
The last time I went to Germany in December, the last night I slept with you two in bed, and we did actually that routine of telling each other what we like and what we don't like. And Nina asked me as well, which was so sweet. And it's just, I think it's such a beautiful routine. So I'm really glad that you picked it up. Cool. All right. So, after or at the end of each interview, I'm asking a few questions to my guests. And the first one that I want to ask you today is, what are you most grateful for?
Well, I'm most grateful for my child, really, for my daughter. I love her so much, and all this transformation process that I'm going through just really started because of her, and I just love her to the moon and back, and I'm so grateful for the experience with her.
Okay, great. Number 2, your 3 most important wisdoms that you would pass on to the rest of the world and to the rest of the listeners.
Oh my God. Well, first, I always try to stay positive. I think that's, you can look at every aspect of life in 2 ways. You can be, you can see the things that didn't go right, or you can always find something that did go right for you, or something you could learn even from things that went wrong. So I think staying positive for me is really, really, really super important, and just a way of living, just deciding on that way, on that path of positivity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then also, I think something that is really true for me is that love is the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I deal with my child, I don't know, I act from this point of love, and I'm not judgmental, and I want to transfer this feeling to all my other relationships, and I think that just works really well. So always try to look at other people, or with love. I think that's really, really cool.
One of the things that resonates with me there is that, like love, like you should always treat people with love and compassion, because you never know what they are going through.
Yes, what they are going through.
Yes, totally. You just kind of see their, you just see them in that moment, and you judge them because maybe they are angry, or they're frustrated, or they're acting in a certain way, and we don't know what they've been going through in order to get to that point. So always treating people with love and compassion is such a big thing. Yeah.
Yes, that's true. Wow. And the third one, really is go your way, do that first little step. And for me right now, really this thing is small steps will take you there. So start your way, go make that first little step, and do a little tiny step every day, and it might take you longer than somebody else, but you will still get there.
Yeah, that's great as well. Thank you. And is there a book that you would recommend that changed your life, or that really inspired you in that process that you've been going through over the last 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, I personally really love Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert, because I can just listen to any part of the book. I have it as a audio. So, and sometimes at night when I lay awake and I have a lot of thoughts, I can just tune in at any part of it. And there was always so much wisdom for me in there. But maybe for someone who wants to start with like personal development or something like that, I really, really would recommend The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, because there are 4, how do you say, agreements, like
for ways to live your life, basically.
Yes. And I actually mentioned one of them, I think, in my interview. This always do your best thing, whatever it is that day, is actually one of those agreements. And it's, the beginning is a bit mystical. So, if you start listening to it or reading it, don't
give up.
Don't give up too fast, because it's really a tiny book, and the 4 agreements on their own actually are super, super good, and are really a easy step or first step to get into developing your personality.
For sure. For me, that's kind of my Bible. Like every time I feel like upset or I feel down, that's when I just tune in. I have it as an audiobook, and I just switch on any chapter, and there's always a truth in there that I can like immediately apply to like what's going on in my life, and be like, oh yeah, either like I like took something personal, or I judged myself, and or
made an assumption.
Yeah.
So, it's really, really good.
Yeah. So what are your next plans? What's from you over the next weeks and months and years?
I think I'm not a big planner. I'm really just somebody, I'm totally with this female energy, I guess, to go with the flow. And I don't know, I just want to do things that I enjoy, and also want to, make a contribution and help other moms to get inspired and to come to this positive path of, personal development and a happy, healthy life. I want to inspire people.
Great.
And
And so how can people follow your journey, or how can they reach out to you?
Well, I just published my website. That is katicoached.com.
Mm-hmm. So
And also
KATICOACHT.com.
yes,
Because it's the German way of how to spell coach.
yes, okay, yeah.
I will put it
And
on the show notes as well. So
yes, and also under the same name, I will soonish, I hope, release my podcast, and also my Instagram is Kati Coached. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I will put it all in the show notes as well.
Cool.
Awesome. Is there anything else you would like to say? Anything that we haven't maybe talked about and that you would want to share with the rest of the people?
I don't know. I think I said everything, but I just want to thank you again for inspiring me so much, because your role model always inspires me and motivates me to get going. And I think we're really together in this journey. And yeah, I'm really grateful for having you in my life and as my sister.
Likewise. I wouldn't have probably started with personal development if it wasn't for you, you know?
Yeah, and I think it's something super important. Find somebody that will go that way with you. If it's a friend or a family member, it's always easier if you have somebody that connects with you, where you can talk to each other and exchange thoughts. And I think that's super important also to stay on that path.
Yeah, beautiful last word. Thank you so much for being here today.
I'm thanking you for the opportunity.
Of course. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, I would be extremely happy and grateful if you could leave me a comment and a 5-star rating. If you know someone who would benefit from the information I talked about today, please feel free to share it with them, no matter if it is your friends, your colleagues, and/or your family members. You will always find all links and a summary of the podcast in the show notes. It would be great if we could connect on Instagram or via email. You can find all details of how to find me in the show notes as well. And that way, you can also send me any questions that you might have. I'm glad you're listening to this podcast. Thank you so much for your trust. With gratitude, Julia.